Wusa here, Wusa Doula here with my friend Tyeanna, and we're going to talk about a very important topic that is not talked about enough, the pelvic floor. And it shouldn't be a topic that just comes up during birth. It should be in our normal life conversations, but particularly today, before I did any work in birth, I knew nothing about the pelvic floor. I knew that I had one, but I didn't think about, what I would need to do. But today we're going to talk about ways to protect and to strengthen your pelvic floor and core. So you're in the right place if you're an expecting parent, you're about to have a baby, or you're planning on having a baby. And these are the different things that you need to think about if you're preparing for birth. So, Tyeanna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tyeanna. Thanks for having me, Terry. I'm so excited to be here. I am a wife and mother of 5 children, and I am passionate about childbirth education and all things supporting women, and I love to empower women to make decisions that they are proud of and informed. And I just want to point out that I am not a pelvic floor specialist, but I am very passionate about just informing women that this is a topic that they need to be educated on. I am by no means an expert at this, but I just want to bring up some things that you can start thinking about and find a specialist if you need one.
Yeah, for sure. We are both in the realm of childbirth education and doulas, and pelvic floor. There's specialized, trained, I think, are they doctors?
I think physical therapists, yeah.
Physical therapists who are trained in this particular area that we're talking about today. And I love bringing on different birth workers who have expertise in educating people. And the topic that we're sharing about today is how to strengthen and prepare your core and your pelvic floor for the birth experience, because you're going to be using it. And we have some links below. You can join my email list. I love to give out more information about birth and how to prepare your body and your family. And I love to send little prizes and gifts. So again, we have Tyeanna here from Blissful Birth Support. She supports the Texas area. So reach out to her and know that in the time that you're spending watching these videos and preparing your body for birth, you're going to achieve more success by planning and preparing. Because our very interesting topic today is something that you should learn about early on, and know that in your everyday movements, how are you supporting your pelvic core and your floor? We don't talk about it enough, the pelvic floor. We talked about it earlier, and knowing that there are simple steps that we can incorporate into our daily lives, right? These are 12 different things that we're giving you today that you could do. So let's jump right into it. And I want you to remind you that the video is for people who are how to have a baby, and knowing that this area of your body is connected, right? You're going to be one step closer to your baby with each contraction that you feel. It's going to feel very extreme, and know that your baby is coming. So before you have your baby, these are the things that you're going to want to prepare. And if you like any of these, please comment below, tell us about it. Number 1.
Okay, yeah. First, I want to point out that our bodies are amazing, right? And they are made to have a baby. And so I don't want to create any fear in talking about this, but just like anything else in our bodies, if it goes through a lot of stress, we need to support it, and we need to strengthen and to prevent any not damage, but weakness. If there's a weakness there, then we're going to have some issues. And so I think that before pregnancy, and even, if you've had a baby and you aren't aware of this topic, finding a pelvic floor specialist And just seeing, if you're concerned at all about having any kind of prolapse or weakness in your pelvic floor, having them do a free exam or whatever it is that they do, and letting you know where you're at, because they can see if you're doing Kegels properly or if you are weak in certain areas. And so just doing some networking and finding those specialists in your area, so that when you do need one, or if you do need one, you have that information.
Yeah, I think this research might be a bit more challenging to find people that specialize with the pelvic floor. Out of the many different types of physical therapy, I think only a few, even in New York City, when I did like a quick Google search, I was just like, oh, there's only 10? Like, so start doing your research early. That might not be right in your immediate area, but expand your search. Like, don't give up just because there isn't one within 20 miles or something that you would like, because this is a specialist. And as you mentioned, they can check to see where you fall in the line of like how much different things that you could do. And we're going to talk about like an exercise plan that they would give you to help strengthen, right? They're going to give you strategic moves that you're going to need to practice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like Terry said, in my area, we don't have a pelvic floor specialist, but we have a physical therapist, and she does know exercises that you can do. Even though she doesn't specialize in it, she can still give you exercises, and she has the knowledge. It's just not her specialty. And so even if you don't have a specialist in your area, you can see a physical therapist, and they can refer you out to someone else if they can't help you. And they will give you a specific plan. And so I think this is why it's important to go before you're pregnant, just to know if you do have any weaknesses and be doing those specific things. There are so many things on YouTube, pelvic floor exercises, and I would recommend those if you are pre-pregnancy to prevent anything. But if you do have any prolapse or any concerns that you have, I would recommend seeing a specialist so that you're not doing any further damage. You can have a prolapse is when your uterus is like coming out, or your bladder or your rectum. And so if that's happening and you're doing exercises that aren't specifically for you, you could be doing more damage. So I just think that seeing that specialist ahead of time and getting those specific exercises is important.
Yeah. If you have more things going on in the pelvic floor area that needs more attention, then definitely having your specialist know that, oh, I'm planning to have a baby. Like, are there certain things that I can be doing? And I'm pretty sure even if you don't have anything going on, we can all be doing these exercises to strengthen our pelvic floor at most times, because it's a common thing. It's not like a thing where, oh no, yours is perfectly super strong, it's ready to go. Like, I think everybody can do a little bit more work here. And I think this one is funny because if you have other children, I feel like it'll be like this.
Yeah, and that can be a challenge. If you do have other children, getting into a physical therapist can be it can be a challenge, because what do you do with your kids, and planning that and making time for yourself is really important to get into those physical therapy appointments if that's what you're needing. And then being active in your everyday life, that's really going to help prevent damage in the future. Like I said, if you're strong in your pelvic floor before you have a baby, then we're going to help prevent any weaknesses. And then after you have a baby, we want to work on strengthening, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But a lot of times I see my clients, they're like, I'm pregnant, like I can just relax, I can just sit back on the couch, and it's like, well, you need to be active, you need to be out walking, at least walking, to keep that pelvic floor strong. It doesn't take a lot, but just using it every day to just walk will help to prevent.
Yeah, walking is such a simple good habit that you can incorporate, right? It doesn't have to be very it doesn't have to be for very long or for very quick, right? But just using your body, right? Being aware of your body helps to, we'll dive into deeper about which areas to focus on, like when you're walking. But yes, just staying active in general, right? Like, as you mentioned, you might want to like lay on the couch a bit more and be like, this is a lot of work being pregnant, right? But there's so much more work that you want to continue to be doing so that you're preparing your body for birth and post-birth, right? There's a lot of things. And of course, we don't want you to be so hard on yourself, but we're just giving you an advance notice that, okay, you still need to, add in some daily walking, depending on each day, might be a little bit different, but go for that walk. And so now we're going into the things that you can do during pregnancy.
Yeah, I love this little cat. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Holding in your abs. I was a dancer in college. And so, I actually had a pretty strong pelvic floor just from doing all, the plies and all the things. But then holding in your abs, that's going to help your core to prevent the splitting of the abs from being more than it should. And that kind of depends on your baby and the size and everything. But that holding in your abs and strengthening also your glutes is going to help your lower back and the pelvic floor and keep everything where it's supposed to be. We didn't really talk a lot about the pelvic floor, but they're muscles it's like a sling and it's holding in all your organs and holding up your uterus. And so if we're just letting everything go, that's great. Like right before you have your baby, like we want to relax and let it all go. But when you're pregnant, holding in your stomach is going to help protect your back and your pelvic floor. And then maybe using like a pregnancy belt, if you're really feeling a lot of pressure, we want to help prevent putting extra pressure on the pelvic floor to keep it healthy.
Yeah. Right now I'm like sitting different so that I can because for me, for this one is what's hard to remember. I'm like, where are my abs? I'm like, I don't feel anything. But as you mentioned, the straight posture and then like squeezing your glutes, like this helps to align my body to use my core, right? If you think about your core more. And I do love this kitty because of how straight we're standing. But yeah, it might appear this way, right? How we are holding ourselves and the tips that you mentioned of using the band, because yeah, you're holding in like as you can see, like the belly, and it could be a strain on your back, I could just imagine. So having the good posture and being aware and having good posture really helps to reduce like any other issues that you have with like using your core. Because as you mentioned, we don't want to put additional pressure, right, unnecessarily. So this is a funny one, but just being aware of your body, right, and then not lifting heavy things, particularly. They tell you hopefully to not hold anything heavier than your baby, right, after birth. Keeping that in mind because and your baby will grow exponentially heavier too. So if you remember that, it'll help you to do this one, right?
Yeah. And, something that I've always been I can do it all myself type of a woman. But as I've gotten older, I realized like the importance of letting your spouse or your partner really pick things up for you, especially when you're pregnant, because you already have all this weight and then lifting heavy things puts extra pressure on your pelvic floor. And I never realized how important it is to relieve that extra pressure, to really protect your uterus and your pelvic floor. Because once you start having a prolapse or issues with the pelvic floor, it's a lot more difficult to, you can strengthen those with exercise. There's a lot you can do, but a lot of women have to have surgery and we want to prevent that. And so, maybe being a little humble and realizing that, you're not asking, it's not that you can't do something, but you're helping to prevent problems in the future by letting others help you.
Yeah. And that's just a reminder too, in all things during this time, take it easy, let people help you, because, and these are for very good reasons, right? We want you to protect your, what your perineum, and during this time, like being aware that, oh, I have this really heavy baby right here, should I be really squatting down and pick up this pencil, like think about it a little bit, and if it could be helped, please ask for help, because it's a muscle too, right? And I was thinking of this earlier. I'm like, it can happen that you pull it in some way, right? That you did something by mistake you didn't intend to, and then you, as we mentioned, it caused more harm to our body, and have to have a longer healing time or have to get a procedure done. So we're thinking about prevention and what we can do to prevent those things from happening, right? And asking for a bit of help here and there. And some other new tips that we're going to give you, like this one. I love this one.
Yeah, I love that. And don't you feel like that? Like when you're pregnant, like literally you're doing like the 10-point turn in bed, and I always thought, well, doing crunches is like, that strengthens your abs. But actually, like when you're pregnant, you're putting the extra pressure in the middle of your abs, and that will help, that will split them. And so you want to, when you are sitting up or you're getting in the car, or out of the car, you want to like sit down and then move your legs over, or you want to roll over in bed and then push up with your arms. And that will just help. You don't want to be putting that extra pressure, because when your abs split, you get this cone shape. And that's because like your organs are coming out of the muscles, because those abs are not connected anymore. Oh. And so we want to prevent anything like a crunch where you'd be sitting up. You want to roll to the side and push up with your arms, and that will help to prevent any further damage.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like while being pregnant, the crunch position is not something you shouldn't be thinking of doing crunches. So by avoiding, like getting up in those situations, right, where, like you mentioned, out of a car, like these are some really good tips that you wouldn't even think too much about, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm just getting out of a car like how I always do, right? But while being pregnant, like being aware of your body and making it easier for your body. That's why I chose this one with a dog. We're just like, oh, I can just roll over, right? To make it easier instead of like trying to get out of bed like this, right? Using the different muscles. But yeah, be kind to yourself while you're carrying this baby. It helps to be mindful of it so that your body can stay strong. Because you're carrying this package here for a while, so being aware, like lifting with your knees and things like that. There's specific ones related to pregnancy, and you'll feel that as your belly grows, right? So now we have some tips to think about to protect your pelvic floor during labor.
Yeah, birth on your side. This is a huge one. I have a lot of clients that will go in and they go to their hospital class and they're like, oh, don't birth on your back, but then you get there and the providers might not be on the same page. Or, it's just kind of how things go. And so really advocating for that. Birthing on your side can really help prevent damage to your pelvic floor. And you wouldn't think it would be that big of a difference, but there's so many things of birthing on your side or birthing hands and knees or birthing in a squatting position. Those natural ways of birthing. So whatever feels good to you is what you want to do. But birthing on your back has shown through research that it does damage to the pelvic floor. And so if you have birthed on your back, don't feel like it's the end of the world, but in the future, advocate for change. And then, if you might have an amazing pelvic floor and didn't have any problems on your back, but, this is one way that you can help prevent.
Yeah. Amazing. I love this tip too. I think out of all the tips in the birth world, this is like if you can apply this one, I feel like it'll help in so many different ways in terms of comfort, in terms of, knowing that it can be as easy as help me move to my side, right? Like asking, because you might be switching back and forth because that the tip that we're giving you here today is birthing on your side. We'll talk about it later in the video, but even if you have an epidural, you can be moved to your side, right? And this is something I'll advocate for you to push for yourself, even if you're having a birth at the hospital. It's a small tilt of your body, right? But most of the time, no one's going to move you, like if you don't ask for it, because they want you. The provider will probably feel more comfortable if you're lying flat on your back, right? But as many people will tell you, that's the worst position a birthing person can be in, right? It is not optimal for baby to come out, and as we mentioned here, particularly, it can just unintentionally or something cause damage to your pelvic floor by birthing on your back. So as easy as ask people to help you turn on your side. Just remind people, I want to be on my side.
Yeah, perfect. And number 8, hands-off approach. This is something that you can work with your provider on. Research has shown that, the perineum is a sphincter, and so by touching it, it tightens up. And so when you're having your baby, then if your provider is not touching, then it prevents tearing, and tearing then damages the pelvic floor. And so if you can have a hands-off approach, if everything's going well, your baby's birthing just fine and all is great, then just let nature do its thing. And usually nature handles things better than we can change it by intervening. And so I just think this is a really great thing, and not a lot of providers do it. And so keeping that conversation open with your provider and understanding how they handle that second stage of labor is really important if that's something that you want to have in your birth.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that you have to ask this. You definitely need to ask them, because I think they will automatically assume that you want their assistance in birth. So asking for them to be more hands-off is like asking them to not do anything. So it's actually really hard for other people to just observe you during birth, particularly in that role. So I'm not telling you to be like back off and tell them during your birth, like, I don't want to be touched, because like of what you mentioned in terms of like our pelvic floor will tighten, right? And if we feel any sense of danger, right? This is something we would want to avoid. We want to feel more relaxed and open, and to have our baby come down. So asking for a hands-off approach and seeing if that's even an option, as you mentioned, when the time comes closer towards labor, there are different procedures or things that your doctors are going to want to do to help you move along, right? Like cervical checks or more invasive medical things, but ask for a hands-off approach. And I love that you mentioned that how it's basically to feel your body, right? To really let your body tell you how ready you are, and by having the hands-off approach to protect your perineum while you're giving birth, so that it's not a stressful situation, that it's a more relaxed situation. This is something we will have to try our best to use if we believe that this method will help.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Number 9, listen to your body and avoid an epidural if possible. I'm all for an epidural if that is on your birth plan and that is what you want. But it does, just from my own experience as a doula, you don't have as many options for moving in labor and listening to your body. Also, the epidural can deaden your perineal area. And so listening to your body as far as tearing goes is a lot more difficult. And so, of course, natural birth is is what I advocate for, just because it's the body talking to you and telling you what you need, and then you listening to your body. And so just having an epidural can also outweigh, if you're going to go into a C-section but you're exhausted, and having an epidural, might be a good option for you. But as far as talking about the pelvic floor, avoiding that epidural can help you to prevent damage to the perineum. And then also, not pushing too hard. Like I've had clients with an epidural that pushed too hard because they couldn't feel, and that can damage the pelvic floor when we're not listening to our bodies.
Yeah. If you, and we're telling people here that if you can delay even having, right, because this is mainly for pain, right? And if you can bear the pain any longer, know that once you're in a hospital setting, they can usually get you one fairly quickly, but check on your situation. Sometimes the anesthesiology isn't 24 hours or something. But here, knowing that if you use an epidural, you'll have less control over your body, right? You're feeling less down there below, even though you might feel that you feel it. Because some people say that even after an epidural, they still have some feeling. But knowing that you're going to reduce your abilities to control, right? And as you mentioned, if you can't control and can't feel it as much, and you're being told to push so hard, you might tear. Yeah. And you won't be able to feel it because you have used an epidural. But even if you have, right, there are steps we can take to take care of our body, right, and to not tear. And there's that's a totally different other topic. But yeah, in terms of the perineum, if you can feel your perineum here, then yes, you'll have more control. And there's some steps after birth, right? It might seem real hard because you're like, I just had a baby, right? But knowing that getting back into a routine of wild exercise, I mean, it might be like asking the world, but baby steps here.
Yeah, I love. We don't want you doing push-ups. I love this little meme that you chose here. One of, as I mentioned, I was a dancer, and so with my first baby, I had really strong pelvic floor. With my fifth, I was in a different position in life. I haven't exercised for years. I mean, as far as dancing goes, hours and hours of movement a day. And so I was in a very different place with my fifth baby. And just laying on my back and bringing your knees up and just, bringing your leg down and back up, that can be a lot of work for women that have a weak pelvic floor. And so just starting with those little things, you can do that in bed. You're postpartum, you're spending a few days in bed, especially with a fifth baby, and just moving those legs up and down and really holding in your core is strengthening your pelvic floor. And that's why we come back to, doing those specific exercises for you. If you've seen a specialist and you know what you need to work on, and then just starting with the bare minimum, the little things, and then working your way up to those exercises that they've given you. And it might, like you said, Terry, it might seem like it's not possible to even ever have a strong pelvic floor again, right after you've had a baby, depending on, your experience and what you've gone through. But getting in there right away, a few days after birth and just doing those little things can make a huge difference. And then give your body time. It takes a year for your body to even just regulate. And, I'm on year 3 of my last baby, and I'm just barely feeling like myself. Just, getting back to the gym and so, yeah, giving yourself some time and then building that birth team, not just your birth team, but your postpartum team, who's helping you and encouraging you. And and helping you get back to that strong pelvic floor.
Yeah, remember, baby steps, right? It's also postpartum. You want to enjoy the time of your baby. You're changing diapers. You're waking up in the middle. There's so many different things going on. But if you can just do like 10 of those little leg lifts, you could call it a day, right? Not asking for too much, but be mindful, right? If the exercises were on your plan, let's try to stick to that plan, right? And we'll know that there's going to be days that we don't want to, which is totally fine. But in everything that you do, in the daily activities, I'm pretty sure you're working your bodies in all the different ways during recovery. So as you continue to recover after birth, you're probably going to want to go back to your pelvic floor therapist. And what would that be like? Is how long after birth?
I'm not exactly sure, but like as a doula, if I see something in the hospital that concerns me about my client, I let them know like, hey, you might want to be getting into a therapist, because at your 6th week, a lot of OBs don't really cover that. They're like, oh yeah, you're good. They don't really talk about the pelvic floor health and what you can do to prevent. But I just wanted to mention here that some things, especially, if you're feeling strong and you're feeling like you're getting back to your normal self, then, continue to do those exercises that are helping you. But if you're feeling like lots of pressure, heaviness in your pelvic area, if you're having like extra vaginal discharge, these are like signs that something is not right. If you feel like you're sitting on a ball, like at this feeling that there's something coming out or protruding from your vagina, like protruding tissue, if you feel anything, or if you have bleeding or constipation, or you have the urine incontinence where you can't hold in the urine, those are things that you definitely want to go see a pelvic floor therapist. These aren't normal. And so, I want to normalize that this is not normal, and that you don't need to live like that you can go see a therapist and get help before you have like a prolapse, and then you have to get surgery. Like that's what we're wanting to prevent here.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that your OB might not check for this. They're not going to ask you those questions like, does anything feel weird? Because you're not going to know what's normal or what feels weird after birth, right? I'm just saying they might not be as helpful if you don't know these indicators. Like, as you mentioned, if it feels like there's something odd or a pressure or pain or bleeding, right? Because you might be bleeding for a long time after birth, right? Even at the 6-week appointment, where that's the main follow-up that any doctor does. But even after that, right, within the year of healing, if you feel that it would be helpful to see a specialist, definitely reach out. Don't wait until it's too long to ask for help and to see like, oh, is this normal? Like, go in and ask and check if it's normal by a specialist.
Yeah, and number 12, follow your core and pelvic health exercises like we talked about, and remain active in daily life. As women, we laugh about like, oh, I can't do jumping jacks anymore, or I can't jump on the trampoline. Like those are things that it's a weak pelvic floor. And so having that daily exercise plan can make a huge difference just in a few weeks. If you're doing exercises that are specific for you, then you can have a better life. You can have an active life with your kids and be doing fun things that you wouldn't otherwise do because you're afraid you might leak or something like that. So
yeah. I want to thank you for like normalizing, as you mentioned, normalizing some of these conversations, because some people are not telling people what's going on, right? Because it's a very private thing, and it's directly related to your birth experience, but you don't want people to know or something, even your own doctors. But yeah, if you're having these issues, definitely reach out. If you're leaking, or if you feel like you don't have control. And you might hear that, oh yeah, some people will lose that after a while, but there's more things that you can do, right? To support your body as you're healing. Right. So doing the walking, doing the regular exercise too. But like we mentioned before, being aware of your body, like, is this normal for you? Was it normal for you before? If it wasn't, please, like, bring it to someone's attention, someone that you trust, ask them. And if they don't know, hopefully they'll be referring you to a specialist, right? And the pelvic floor specialist is the one we're talking about today. Start doing your research. I hope you learned something new from our videos today about the pelvic floor. We talked about a lot of different things, right? You got a good coverage of all the things related to your pelvic floor health during pregnancy. So share this information, talk about it. When you talk to other moms who've had babies, right? Or people who are expecting, we want you to know that you had prepared and had a pelvic floor health plan, like how you prepared as part of your recovery plan too. So don't think that it's too hard to bounce back from birth, right? Some people might make jokes about it still, but it's not that funny. It's a life, body experience, and it's beautiful. And we want to talk about all the different things that can happen in birth and all the things that we can do, right? So that we can start preparing our bodies and letting us know that, like, we're doing all the things that we can do to help our body recover and heal. Because we don't want you to be afraid, right? All the things that we mentioned today, they might be sensitive topics. If it applied to you, you might even feel more sensitive, but know that there are many people who can help you. So start these conversations early. And no matter what, even if you just found out now or you found out after, as you mentioned, like you've already had your baby on your back or you did everything wrong, right? There's still many things you can do to strengthen your pelvic floor. And take your time. Don't be too hard on yourself every single day. Take the little steps and feel good about it too. Like that you got to walk in for 30 minutes. Like, I want you to enjoy all these different things and not be adding any stress to your daily life in general. We want to be woosah, right? Relaxed. So I want you to remember to go with the flow. Birth is unpredictable. All the different things that we mentioned may or may not apply to you. And if they help you, please use it. If it doesn't, just lose it and continue. Or I'm glad you're watching videos like this to learn about all the different resources that we have out here and different types of birth workers that may be in your area. So if you're in Texas, reach out to Tyeanna. And know that she has supported families through and encouraging natural birth. So if you feel like you want people like this on your birth team, definitely reach out, look for them. Tyeanna also has a blog and her website. So thank you so much, Tyeanna. I love bringing on other people who love to talk about birth and preparing for birth in my podcast here, Baby Experts Sidebar. If you like this video today and if you learned anything new, please tell us about your research experience in calling and finding a pelvic floor specialist. And share their names. If you have someone good that's working with you in your current area, like the U.S. healthcare system has a different support in different areas, in rural and in urban. So if you have good providers, please share it with us. Tell us who you like and who we should look into, because these are not the secrets that we should be holding. So again, tell us your experience. I'd love to learn more about it. Wusa Doula here, and Tyeanna, my friend. We're birth workers and we love to have more ways to be involved with you. So share with us, comment, and we'll reply. Thank you so much for being here today, Tyeanna.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.